Hello again, Uncle Mike here. Would you like to read a book with me? For the month of October, we're going to read one spooky book every week. Ooh. To celebrate, I put up a black sheet and hired these ghosts to join us. Today's book is Meaner Than Meanest by Kevin Somers. What do you think will happen when this mean old hag comes face to face with this cute little girl? Let's find out. Let's go. Meaner Than Meanest by Kevin Somers, illustrated by Diana Kane Bluthenthal. To Jen, one of the strongest people I've ever known, KS. To Cameron and Kelly, my two favorite recipes, and to those who bring out the best in others, DCB. Alright, so here's a little map. Here's the wooded swamp. Here's the hag herself. Looks like she's chasing off some crows. And the hovel where she lives. Some time ago, somewhere not too far away, there was a wooded swamp. In this wooded swamp stood a rickety old hovel that seemed to lean toward the moon. In the hovel, within the wooded swamp, lived an evil old hag who was the second meanest creature alive. Who do you think was the first meanest creature? Let's find out. She was the second meanest creature only because a cat named Hiss lived with her in the hovel within the wooded swamp. He was the meanest. He was so mean, in fact, that the hag could never get anywhere near him, even at dinner time. The cat hated the hag, and the hag hated the cat. And that is just how it has been for as long as either of them could remember. They both liked it that way. Kind of strange, right? One fall day, the hag realized that October 31st was right around the corner. She wanted it to be the darkest, spookiest, creepiest Halloween ever. But how to make it happen? "I'll make a mean monster, the meanest," the old crone said to herself. "Yes, that's it. It will be even meaner than Hiss and uglier than me," she cackled. "I'll make the most evil creature in the world." Whoa. The hag eagerly went to work. She rifled through her ratty old books until she came across the one she was looking for. It was titled Monster Recipes for Witches, Hags, and Mean Old Bats. From the cellar, she got a big old brass pot and half filled it with greasy, slimy sweat from a speckled frog. She slowly cooked it to a simmer. She added 16 scrappy scorpions and 17 sticky spiders. After that came 6 slithery snakes and then half a dozen squishy snails. Oh, what nasty things she put in that pot. That does not sound good. Soon the pot began to foam up higher and higher until it hardened into a cocoon. For the next several days, the hag sat next to the cocoon. She read it horror stories. She called it awful names and whispered to herself, "You're going to be even meaner than Hiss and uglier than me." She poked it with a stick, saying, "Get mean! Get mean!" Ooh. Just as the hag was commanding the cocoon to be born and name thyself, evil monster," Hiss knocked a jar off the table. It was labeled Eye of Newt. "Eye of Newt! Eye of Newt!" screamed the hag. "How could I have left out the most important part?" But it was too late. The cocoon began to hatch. Out from the cocoon popped the cutest girl the hag had never wanted to meet. "My name is Daisy," the girl said with a voice sweeter than honey. I can't do a voice sweeter than honey. "What have I done?" cried the hag. She put her head in her hands. Daisy saw that she was upset and said, "Aw, you look like you need a cup of hot cocoa, or perhaps a hug." That's a butterfly at her nose. A hug? A hug? The last thing I need is a hug! The hag screamed furiously. She locked Daisy in the next room with a hiss. Spend some time with the cat. Maybe some of his meanness will rub off you. Later, the hag returned. She was horrified to find Hiss purring in Daisy's arms. Daisy giggled, saying, "He's a really sweet kitty. I'm going to call him Mr. Fluff." The hag showed Daisy and her new friend to the cellar. "Well," the hag crackled, "we'll see how chummy you and Mr. Hugs and Kisses are after a few hours together in a damp, dark cellar." The hag paced in anger, saying to herself, "That little non-monster took the hiss out of a perfectly mean cat." After a few hours, the hag peeked into the cellar. Her face dropped. Daisy had found some candles and blankets. Warm and cozy, she and Mr. Fluff were happily playing cards. "What is this?" the hag demanded. "We're playing Go Fish," replied Daisy, adding, "Kitty cats love fish." The hag left the cellar screaming. The hag tiredly sat in her chair for a while, soaking her feet. "What kind of stupid recipe for a monster makes a little girl when you forget the Eye of Newt?" Around dinner time, the hag stormed down the cellar stairs, shoved some wormy apples at Daisy, and said, "Choke on these, brat!" Daisy just smiled, took the apples, and softly said, "Thank you, kind hag." Later, the hag came back to find Daisy, Mr. Fluff, and 3 worms playing Pinochle. Daisy looked up to say, "Apples are best shared among friends." The hag stomped up the cellar stairs, saying, "Let's see how much fun you and all your critters have sleeping down there with the rats." She slammed the cellar door and locked it. Uh-oh. At sunrise, the hag unlocked the cellar door and found herself in the middle of a tea party. It was Daisy, Mr. Fluff, the worms, and 3 handsome cellar rats. The hag grumbled, "I give up." During the next few days, the old hag mopped around the hovel while Daisy was having fun playing. She flew kites with Mr. Fluff. She played freeze tag with the rats. She made happy drawings with the worms. The hag couldn't bear it any longer. She locked herself in a room and refused to come out. On Halloween morning, the hag awoke. At first, she was excited by the thoughts of the scariest day of the year, but then she remembered. This year, a little girl named Daisy was ruining all her hopes of having a truly ghoulish holiday. She decided to stay in bed. After sunset, there was a knock at the bedroom door, followed by a high-voiced chirping. "Come on, hag, it's time for trick-or-treat." It was Daisy, of course. The hag covered her head with her pillow. Daisy started again. "Old hag, it's the witching hour. Please come out of your dark room." The hag could not even muster up anger at Daisy's cheerfulness. She dragged herself out of bed and went to the door, grumbling to herself. She opened the door. Then something very strange happened. Something that had never happened before in the hag's whole bitter life. Her face twitched, her mouth quivered, cracked, and then broke out into what can only have been called a smile. Oh. The end. Oh, wow. That was a great book. I did not expect that end. But, oh, very cute. So what did you think about the book? In the beginning, there was a mean old hag who wanted to make the most evil creature alive. That's pretty scary. But in doing so, she ended up making a mistake in the ingredients and created a little girl who ended up being super sweet. The hag was very upset at her failure and tried to punish the little girl and did whatever she could to try to make the little girl mean. But the little girl was so positive, she ended up turning everybody and everything nice. And at the end, even made the old witch smile. How cool is that? You know, sometimes you may wonder why some people do seem so mean. But sometimes people are mean because they are sad or lonely, and they just never had anyone really care about them. Are there people in your life you care about? You should tell them, let them know. Alright, that's it for today. It's time for Uncle Mark. Bye!